Hi, Piers. Today we'll be talking about the developing mind. We'll be looking at the mind in different stages of adolescent peer and teenagers' life. As we get to understand the development of the brain, it's very important for us as educators and for caregivers because we'll be looking at the infancy age and toddler age to make sure that we guide our support of the child's development. The development is important and it's usually viewed in three lenses. This is memory, which is the storage and retrieval of information. Information processing is the speed of mental task and efficiency in which we do it. And attention, which is the ability to be able to focus. When we look at infancy and babyhood, which is the ages from 0 to 2, according to the CDC developmental stages, the first 2 years, the brain is doing a lot of developing. It's forming millions of neuron connections every second. At this stage, when we look at attention, this stage is categorized by joint attention. Joint attention is where an infant follows the caregiver's gaze, where they go in the room, what they do with their hands, what things do they go to look at. Attention is largely involuntary and it is guided by novel stimuli. When we look at information processing, the processing is slow and it is highly transacted on the input from sensory materials. The brain is always learning and it's always having to categorize different visual patterns and also sounds. Let's take a look at memory. Babies rely on implicit memory, which is recognition and routine, rather than explicit memory. By the age of 12 months, infants begin to learn and information, and also they are able to sometimes imitate. You'll get to know that when a lot of times when parents mimic, say mama, say daddy, infants will mimic and repeat that. Now, let's look at sensory play at this particular age. We're looking at neuroprotection. We're also introducing different colors and different textures. And this is also flows into the way that the infants eat. When we think about different colors of food, we think about introducing them to healthy foods to allow them the ability to want and desire that as they get older. Now let's look at the toddler and preschool age, which is 2 to 5. This information was pulled from medlineplus.org. The preschool brain starts at reorganization of the prefrontal cortex. This is where it houses the executive function of the brain. When we look at the memory, we're looking at this age, the working memory, and it begins to develop. You want at this age for a toddler or preschooler to be able to follow two-step directions. One example would be, hey, take your trash, go throw it in the trash can. Let's look at attention. At this age, toddlers have selective attention. A child's ability to focus on tasks will differ for each individual need. The goal would be here to try to extend the periods of time that a toddler or preschool is able to hold their attention, because at this age they're also taking a lot of stuff in, which makes it easy to become distracted. And when we look at information processing and we're looking again at the speed, at this time we're wanting to see the processing speed increase. We want to see language also increase, and we want to see those information that's being processed being able to be developed and spoken in little words, wants, and needs. When we look at cooking and chemistry, we're looking at toddlers, food prep, and we're introducing more solid foods. We're introducing still colors, berries. We are also continuing to feed healthy items because we want the brain to process that what I'm receiving is healthy for me. This is acceptable because I'm getting it, I enjoy it, I'm learning new things because the brain is absorbing what is being given right now. Now we will look at school age 6 to 12. The information I present to you is from the National Institution of Health. So during the elementary years, the brain is pruning. This is where they store it. Is this worth keeping or should we let it go? And this is helping to utilize in the brain what is useful for me and what do I need to eliminate. When you think about the memory, this is the meta memory. Children learn through mnemonic devices and they also use strategies, and this helps them to remember. Example facts for tests. When we look at attention, executive attention continues to grow. Children and teenagers begin to gain the ability to ignore distractions, to be able to hold their attention longer, to be able to shut other sounds out to stay focused on the primary thing that's been presented. When we look at information processing, processing becomes more automatic. Tasks like reading and basic math becomes second nature and natural to do without too much input from the brain. When we look at the living and looking at hydration, hydration has been linked to improved attention spans. That was mentioned in National Institution of Health and the CDC developmental stages. Students can also take this time because learn task taking and keeping track of things by keeping track of how much they are taking in as far as hydration. Let's look at the page ages of 13 and 18. A teenage brain is working progress. The limbic system, which holds the emotions, continues to grow, and the prefrontal cortex, which is in control of the logic, is the steering and the force motion behind everything. When we look at the memory, we are dealing with multiple memory, working memory, at a higher level with their age. At this age, the adolescents and teenagers are able to hold more different abstract conceptions and also be able